Hellsing, written by Kota Hirano, the year I was born, 1997. I went ahead and read the entire manga and watched both animes so that you don't have to. But I will warn you, if you're a fan of the series, you're probably not going to like everything that I have to say about it. Nonetheless, we're going to take the good with the bad, so come dive in with me as we break down the entirety of Hellsing, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the downright weird. Here's the story. After years of hearing about it, I decided to go and watch something else that came out the year I was born, the 1997 anime of Berserk. And needless to say, I loved it. I was a huge fan instantly and went ahead and started collecting the manga series so that I could give it a read. After just a couple chapters, I was in love with it, got the entire series, read the whole thing, and it was great. I love these deluxe editions that are done by Dark Horse with the very cool binding and everything. And I saw on the internet that Dark Horse had done other deluxe editions of other series as well. Upon searching on eBay, I found all three of the deluxe editions of Hellsing for a very cheap cost, so I went ahead and ordered those, and I thought this will make another great video for my channel. And, well, Hellsing is weird. The series starts off pretty awkward. I was not in love with it right off the bat. The art was a little clunky to begin with, in a bit of a charming way, but there were issues with proportions and different things, and overall the characters are just drawn in a strange way. Now the art becomes much better as the series goes on, as is very common with manga artists. They improve as they write their series. It does improve quite a lot, but initially it's a bit off-putting just the way that things are drawn, yet there is that slight charm to it because, you know, it's a little interesting. The story to start out does not grasp me that well, but I was determined to make this video, so I kept on reading, and I would say that between the end of the first deluxe edition through the second deluxe edition, I did eventually start to get interested. I started to get hooked, and I was reading through it very quickly. It started to become pretty fun, and I stopped trying to take it so seriously and just accept it for what it is, a fun little comic story. We follow Alucard, who is a member of the Hellsing organization, but we also find out that he himself is a vampire. Now, the Hellsing organization's job is to go and hunt down vampires and things like this, very similar to my own comic series, which has the Bureau of Occult Affairs, whose job is to go and hunt down supernatural threats. But the catch here is that that Alucard himself is a vampire. Now, he takes orders from the director, the head of the Hellsing organization, Integra Fairbanks Albrook Hellsing or something like that. Her name is very long. And at the beginning of the story, I thought, oh, this character is gonna suck. I'm not into her at all. In fact, I didn't even know she was a girl at the beginning of the manga, which is really funny because Hirano has some notes about that in here where he actually talks about how irritating it was that people didn't know that Integra was a woman. He does improve upon her style as he draws her down the road, making it more clear that she is a woman. But like I said, I didn't really like her initially, but by the end of the series, she became a very strong, very good character. I liked her quite a lot as the series went on, as she became more interesting and more well written. Alucard as well is a decent character. He's kind of just your typical overpowered anime protagonist. And then we've got some other characters as well. Walter is a standout that I think of, who up until the end of the story, and refraining from spoilers at this point, he was a very interesting and good character. Section 13 Iscariot with Anderson, who is a part of this secret Catholic group, they're a part of the Vatican, and he uses bayonets and swords and stuff to fight. He's a popular character, I would say, but I had a huge problem with the way that Hirano does this thing in Hellsing where he has the characters speak in their accents and in the English translation, they are written in a very strange way to portray the accents. And I could not understand what the hell Father Anderson was saying 90% of the time. It was so ridiculous. But he's a decent character nonetheless. A character that I did not care for at all was Police Girl, and I believe she actually has a name, but she's referred to as Police Girl so much in the manga that that's all I know her as. She drove me nuts. I was not super into her. She's just a big-breasted anime girl with giant guns. That's basically all it is. And then we get to the end of Hellsing, where I think that the series really loses its charm and just turns into a big chaotic jumbled mess where everything's all coming together and you have a million people going at each other at the same time and a long drawn out battle that takes like basically the entirety of this third deluxe edition. It really lost me, and it became a serious slog to get through. I almost could not even stand it. So that's my quick spoiler-free review of the Hellsing manga. It's okay. It's got a little bit of charm to it. It's not great by any means. But to make this a complete video, I had to go ahead and watch the anime as well. And I've got to be honest with you guys, I am not a fan of anime. I really am not. You know, I love a lot of anime from the 90s and earlier, Cowboy Bebop, the Berserk anime, different things, but I really don't like modern anime. I hate a lot of the modern anime tropes and things that they put in it. But according to the internet, Hellsing Ultimate is the more accurate version of the anime, the one that's more true to the manga. So I had to start with that one, and I can confirm it is more true to the manga. However, it sucks. And I know that there's a lot of fans of this series, and you're not going to like hearing me say that. You probably like it if you're a fan of anime because it has all of the modern anime things in it, but that is the very reason why I don't like it. In modern anime, Hellsing Ultimate included, the voice acting is just generally terrible, specifically for the English dubs. The characters don't sound like real people, and this is in a stark contrast to when you watch old anime and people speak, and the characters just sound like real people speaking. It was so much better, whereas now I feel that the voice actors hired for these parts are people who are they're trained to be voice actors. Specifically, they try to replicate how an anime character sounds, which has become something completely different from how a real person sounds. Instead, anime characters are loud and obnoxious and bombastic and over the top, and they speak in a way that is so unrealistic that it really just takes me out of the immersion of the show, and I can't stand it. But after trying to slog my way through Hellsing Ultimate, I did go back and, out of curiosity, tried the older Hellsing anime, the one that is not true to the manga, and I gotta say, guys, it's a lot better. A lot better. It actually has quite the vibe to it. I will say that. It feels like an old anime in all the best ways. The characters are cooler. The story is more interesting. The pacing is better than the one that's true to the manga. The music, the soundtrack is awesome. It just feels great. If you're a fan of 90s anime, you will definitely like the old Hellsing. And I honestly prefer the old Hellsing anime over even the manga. I think it's a lot better. There's one particular part I can think of in the first episode where in Hellsing Ultimate, the police girl is captured by a vampire, and Hellsing says, "Are you a virgin?" And she finally goes, "Yes," and he just shoots her like. Pew. And that was supposed to be like cool, I guess. And this is something that modern anime does a lot. It reminds me of a part in Free Ren where Free Ren is talking to this demon, and with very little words exchanged, she just goes and like does whatever she does and kills the thing instantly. And this is supposed to be so cool. I think it's so cheesy and dumb. In the old Hellsing anime, this exchange is a lot different. Alucard actually sits there and discusses with the police girl a little bit more about her being a virgin, which sounds silly because they're in the middle of a tense situation, and you wouldn't think that this would really come through very well if they're sitting there talking, but it feels cooler when he does this, talking to her, than when he just shoots her. Modern anime feels like, for lack of a better word, very autistic. Like, that's really probably not the way to put it, but I don't know. It's just the social dynamic between the characters and stuff doesn't feel genuine. It feels very weird. And the old anime is a lot better in this sense. So really, I'm not a fan of Hellsing that much. There's also some really weird stuff through the manga and in the anime as well. Like this part I think of in particular is when Integra is trying to get the police girl to drink blood because she's a vampire now and she needs it. So Integra cuts her finger and like tries to get the police girl to drink it. But in the manga, Hirano draws this in a way that looks very bizarre and sexual and like hentai almost, with the police girl's face like swooning and all this weird stuff. And I found this to be very strange. And come to find out, Hirano actually got his start with comics by doing comics in a hentai magazine. So that kind of explains that one. There's not a ton of this weird hentai-like stuff throughout the series. It's just a few parts here and there, but it feels weird nonetheless. And I actually think that the sparing use of it makes it feel even stranger when it comes up. But ultimately, after reading Berserk and completely falling in love with it, hoping that Hellsing would be another great manga that I was going to like, I was quite disappointed by it and not my thing. But that's my spoiler-free review. Now I'm going to move into the spoiler section. So this is a big spoiler warning for everybody if you don't want it to be spoiled. But if you're a fan of the series and you want to hear me tear it down, I guess you can stay tuned for this part. Real quick, though, I've got to do my shout-outs. Thank you so much to Austin Brown, the first Grand Justiciar tier member of my Patreon, as well as Nate, who is in the highest wizard tier of my Patreon. Thank you guys so much for the support. I hope you're enjoying the comic series. And for the rest of you guys, hopefully I can shout out you guys soon as you start subscribing to my Patreon. It's only $3 a month to get access to the monthly releases of my comic series Hollow Point, as well as shout outs in these videos and in issues of Hollow Point. Hollow Point is a Western comic series. It reads left to right in English, but the artwork is very inspired by manga because that's how I learned to draw. So if you're a fan of manga, and actually if you're a fan of Hellsing, there's probably a lot you're gonna like about this series, which is funny because I'm not a big fan of Hellsing. But there's some thematic similarities in the sense that it's about a gunslinger type character who was a member of the Bureau of Occult Affairs, which is a secret U.S. government organization that goes out to hunt down supernatural threats. So there are some similar themes present, and you might actually find that you like it. So click the link in the description below to go and read Chapter 1 of Hollow Point completely for free on my Patreon, and then if you like it, you can subscribe to start reading the subsequent chapters that will be coming out monthly. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I've been getting a lot more success on my YouTube lately, so thank you so much for that. Be sure to like this video if you're a fan of comics and manga and anime and all this stuff, because that's mostly what I talk about on here. You're definitely going to want to subscribe if you're into that stuff, and thank you to everyone who supported the Conan video that I posted. I'm going to be doing a lot more Conan the Barbarian stuff as a result of that. People seem to love it, and I love Conan as well, so more of that is coming up. But if you're a fan of anime and manga and you want a guy like me who's not super into anime, I do like manga a lot, but certain ones, but not really anime so much. So if you want someone like me to do more videos where I force myself to watch this stuff and sometimes surprise myself by liking it, be sure to show your support by liking and subscribing so that I know that I should do more on anime and manga. Now time time for the spoiler review. I'm going to do a little bit of a summary of the story here. The story starts off with introducing Alucard, who is a vampire that works for the Hellsing organization, hunting down other vampires. He goes to track down a vampire threat and shoots the police girl that has been captured by the vampire. She is a virgin, which means that she can become a true vampire. So that's what happens. Alucard bites her, and it's very strange that they have to be virgins. If they're not virgins, they turn into basically zombies when they're bit, which is a interesting and strange take on the vampire lore. But they gotta be virgins. The police girl is taken back to the Hellsing organization where she becomes an agent for them, who is also a vampire like Alucard, and we are introduced to other characters such as Walter the butler, Integra Hellsing, who is the director, and we get some flashback scenes to her father who ended up dying. Integra's uncle was trying to take over the organization and was threatening Integra because he didn't want her to take over. But she finds a cellar where Alucard is being held down there, and he is unleashed when she finds him, and he kills her uncle. And then he basically becomes like her bodyguard and her protector at that point. After this, we go on some more adventure of the week sorts of things where they go and hunt down other vampires. But slowly a new faction is introduced into the series, which is Section 13 Iscariot, a group that is affiliated with the Vatican, but they're a top secret group similar to the Hellsing organization, but they're not vampires. They're priests and stuff. And then we get this character, Father Anderson, who becomes like Alucard's arch enemy. And there's all this back and forth between them. It's a big jumbled mess. And honestly, this isn't going to be the best summary because the series is just kind of all over the place. Eventually, another faction is introduced, which is Nazis. So then I don't know what can demonetize. So, the German people that were bad in World War II. That's who gets introduced. There is some Nazi remnants that want to bring about like the end of the world and just war and destruction. And so there's this character with the glasses who is like the new Führer. And I gotta say, he was actually a pretty entertaining character. He was one of the more entertaining parts. And that was the good part of the series. Aside from the points where there was all this goofy anime, overly exaggerated emoticon type stuff, which is common in modern anime, that stuff annoyed me, but aside from that, there were some genuinely entertaining parts, and this character was a highlight for me in that regard. But this is what starts to cause the series to suffer. You have all these factions being introduced, they're all going at each other, and it's just a big mess that culminates in a giant final battle where the Nazis and the Vatican and Hellsing organization and are all going at each other in a big all-out war, and it's very confusing what's even going on at this point. Alucard is this like super vampire with crazy powers that basically is so overpowered. He cannot die, he cannot be killed. He just like, at first he's your stereotypical vampire that bites people, but he has guns and shoots people with silver bullets. But then eventually we up the stakes and he starts basically putting people in like a genjutsu as if he's got the Sharingan and does all this crazy trippy stuff. And I gotta say, this is when the best art in the series really shows, is when he starts doing this stuff, and there's some really awesome panels as a result of this. At the beginning of the series, the action scenes, the action panels are really good and really well done. I'm a huge fan of them. He does some awesome stuff with like drawings extending beyond the panels and some really cool stuff like that. But eventually it begins to suffer as he starts to get really carried away later on in the series with the action sequences. And it's very difficult to even understand what you're looking at later on with just tons of speed lines everywhere and not really, it's very hard to understand what you're looking at. Alucard, we find out, is actually Count Dracula, a revelation that made me feel really stupid because I never figured out that Alucard was just Dracula backwards. So that made me feel really dumb, but that's who he is, and we get this little transformation where he takes on the appearance of the ancient Count Dracula. There are these mercenary characters that are hired by the Hellsing organization to defend the headquarters. Vernadette is the leader of that and sort of falls in love with the police girl, and she kind of gives him the cold shoulder a lot until he dies, and then she's like, why did I give him the cold shoulder? I should have loved him. And then he lives inside of her because she drinks his blood, and then she loves him then. And, you know, there's not much else I can say about this. So, like, the Vatican puts together a big crusade of all these different groups of people. The Ninth Crusade, they go into war, and then you just get chapters and chapters and chapters of chaotic mess of these factions having a war. The ending is not satisfying. It's just confusing and completely lost me, and I had a really hard time getting through it. So anyway, guys, that's my review of Hellsing. I'm sorry it's not as positive as fans of the series might like to see, but I just didn't love it. The old anime is pretty damn good. The manga in Hellsing Ultimate kind of suck, to be honest. So that's what I got for this one. I'm sorry it wasn't more positive, but that's it. Be sure to hit the like button. Unless you're infuriated by me not liking Hellsing, then let me know in the comments, you know, how my opinion is wrong. And if you're a fan of me doing this type of video, be sure to subscribe, because I do a lot of these sorts of things. So there will be plenty more, and they're not always negative. This is actually the first one I've done that was like really pretty negative, referring to a manga series. So, you know, they won't all be this way. But anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next video.